My fellow sleuths, welcome back to another video on Gavin Reads It All. I am going to be doing a ranking of the Agatha Christie books that I have read so far. So in total, I have read 17 Agatha Christie mysteries over the last 4 years. And over the last 4 years, I have been making videos trying to solve Agatha Christie mysteries. I did take a bit of a hiatus in 2024 and 2025, but I am back better and bigger than ever. I do have a big whiteboard now, so that always helps. And if you haven't seen any of those Agatha Christie solving videos, then I will leave the playlist linked down below. And I do have an alter ego, Slagatha Christie, who is competing with Agatha to solve these books. So there is a bit of a leaderboard. I have a bit of a leaderboard going at the minute. And whenever I manage to figure out the whodunit of a mystery, then I get a point. And if I don't get it right, then Agatha gets the point. So far, the scoreboard is 9 to Slagatha and 7 to Agatha. So it's getting a little bit close now. It's getting a little bit dicey. So I thought I would just bring people up to speed on some of my thoughts of like the first 17 Agatha Christie mysteries that I've read. Let you know which ones I have solved and which ones I didn't solve. Some general thoughts, some spoiler-free thoughts on this as well. So if you have not yet read any of these Agatha Christie books, don't worry, I'm not going to spoil anything today. And also to act as a little bit of promotion, because I am planning on doing the Seven Dials mystery next, and this was made into a Netflix film recently. So with my channel members, for the past 3 years, I have been doing solve-alongs, and I get all of us to read up to a certain point in an Agatha Christie book, and then we stop reading before the killer's revealed. I have a live show with my channel members, and we share theories and clues that we picked up on, and then we find out together as we finish the book off on the live show who the killer was. So it's a very fun thing that we're doing, and we're doing the Seven Dials mystery next at the very start of May. So if you are watching this beforehand, then you do have time to join in if you would like to, and no worries if not, because I will still be doing a video solving the Seven Dials mystery that will be going on my YouTube channel at the start of May. So that is my shameless little plug. I have not yet read this, so it won't be added to the ranking video, unfortunately, but it will be the next one I read. So anyway, without further ado, please like the video if you enjoy, subscribe if you haven't already, and let's go to the tier ranking. So here we have the 17 Agatha Christie books that I've read so far, and this is in order of when I read them too. So I feel like that is also going to add to some of my overall enjoyment of these books. Some of these I might have read maybe a little bit too early, and I didn't really fully grasp who Agatha Christie is as a writer that early on. So who knows, maybe upon rereads in the future, I might have more favorable opinions of these. But I also have like my tier rankings here. So here at the bottom tier, we have Something Stinks and It Ain't Miss Marple. It's no secret to anyone who watches my Christie Crime and Wine series that I do not like Miss Marple. Okay, I think she's lazy. I don't think she actually gets involved in the mysteries that she solves. And I think she lets everyone else do the dirty work. So I'm not a fan of her. I do have like a little bit of a friendly rivalry with Miss Marple on my channel. I heard she slags off Slagatha Christie all the time behind my back, so she's gonna have to watch herself. But yeah, that is what the bottom rank is there. Something Stinks and It Ain't Miss Marple. And hey, look at it this way. Miss Marple, flip it around, Wicked Witch. That's all I need to say. And then up from that, we do have Kinda Sus. So these are books that weren't exactly terrible or anything, but there is something suspicious about it, and I can't quite put my finger on, is in like enjoyment wise, but the finger of suspicion points to these books. I don't think I'm explaining these tier rankings well, am I? Well, if it's in that range, it's usually like maybe kind of like mid. The strong evidence tier is ones that were very, very strong. Not my favorites, but they were very strong. They almost could have been a favorite. Maybe it had something holding it back. Maybe it was the reveal. Maybe it was the clues. Maybe it was the storyline. Anything. Something was holding it back from being a perfect read for me. And then the top there, we have 8 and Left No Clues. So those are the 5 stars, the Agatha Christie books that I love the most. And there are a few in this category, I will say. There are a few. So let's go to Murder on the Orient Express. So that was the very first Agatha Christie book I ever read, and I did like it, but I had already seen the movie first. So I cannot include that on the leaderboard for myself because I already knew the outcome. I knew the reveal, and I couldn't solve it because I knew it. And I'm gutted. I'm so gutted that I did end up watching that before reading the book. Everything else I have not seen a movie adaptation for, or actually not until after I've read the book. But everything else is like brand new to me. I've never seen the TV show. I've never seen any adaptation like whatsoever before reading these, apart from Murder on the Orient Express. I have since watched a few films and all of that. So yeah, Murder on the Orient Express, it was good. It was definitely one that I felt the reputation action kind of made it a little bit of a disappointing read. Like, it wasn't terrible, but I think it was the writing style I wasn't used to yet because it was my first Agatha Christie. I had no idea what to expect. It was mainly dialogue. It was very dialogue heavy, which isn't a bad thing now. Like, as I'm 17 books into Agatha Christie, it's not a bad thing now. It was just a lot of talking. It was a lot of talking, and it wasn't a whole lot of action, and that kind of made it a bit of a more mid-ish kind of reading experience for me. Still really appreciate what it did for the genre and its legacy too. It has an astounding legacy, but Murder on the Orient Express, I would most likely put it into kind of sus. Like, it's more like mid for me. I was gonna say it's good, but like for me it was more kind of mid. But I don't know if maybe that was because it was my very first one and I'd already seen the movie. So I feel like maybe there will be a reread in the future for me where I might enjoy it a little bit more, but a good introduction to Agatha Christie nonetheless. And then we have And Then There Were None. And I love the fact that that was my second Agatha Christie book. And I loved it. I loved it. I loved how exciting the plot was. I love the fact that I could not predict who it was as well, so I didn't solve And Then There Were None. If you watch some of my earlier videos, you will see that I did give myself a point for this in the first few episodes, but then I took the point away from me because back then the rules were a little bit, flexible. Now, if I guess the person correctly before it's revealed without guessing anyone else, I get the point. So it has to be like a final verdict on who the suspect is. Back then, I was just like willy-nilly with it. I wasn't as strict with my point system, but now I definitely am. So, And Then There Went On, I didn't solve it, but I had one of the best reading experiences reading it. It was just so fun, so fast paced, didn't know what was going to happen next. There was so many deaths, and I loved it. I just loved it. So that is definitely going into 8 and Left No Clues. I will say, as of today, it is still my favourite Agatha Christie book. But there are still a few 5 stars coming. There are still a few. And it was so good. I was so glad I read that after a bit of a disappointing start with Murder on the Orient Express, which again wasn't terrible. It wasn't terrible. But Anyway, Death on the Nile was next. And I love the fact that Murder on the Orient Express and Death on the Nile were 2 of the most popular ones, because I did 4 books in my very first Agatha Christie video, and Death on the Nile was the 3rd one, and I again had pretty high hopes for it, and I thought again it was rather mid-ish. One of the reasons why was because it took so long to get into it. I was starting to feel a little bit bored in the first 140-ish pages, but it did pick up. It definitely picked up, and it is a pretty good book. And I did get it right. I did guess it right. So that was like my very first official point in my Agatha versus Slagatha series. But again, I was just finding my footing with what I like in an Agatha Christie book at this point. I might like it more on a reread, but at the time I was like, okay, when is something going to happen? Isn't this like supposed to be a murder mystery? When's the freaking murder going to happen? So it does happen about 150 pages in. It takes so long to get there, and it was pretty good. It was pretty good. However, I would put it under Murder on the Orient Express. It really isn't one of my favourites, and I did love the setting. I didn't really feel it as much through Agatha Christie's writing style, but I like that it was a little bit different, and I always love it when Agatha Christie does something a little bit different with her story. That makes it seem a little bit unique, and it was a pretty unique book, but yeah, I think just too early on in my mystery solving career, so it is a little bit low, I'm sorry. And then boom, the last book I read in that very first video I did was The Murder of Roger Ackroyd. And it 8 and Left No Clues. It was so good. And it is one of my proudest achievements. I did solve this one. And I look back on it now and I think that is definitely the peak of my career. That was the peak. That made me so happy getting it right. But also just the story itself was really engrossing. And I can't really say too much because I feel like I have accidentally spoiled this book accidentally in a live show before. So I'm trying to say as little about it as possible because I think going into this one, not knowing much, like I had never heard of it before reading it. It wasn't one of those Agatha Christie books that I'd kind of heard about in the background. But whenever I have talked to someone who has read it, it usually is one of their favourites. So I added it to my very first video and I am so glad. Boy, I am so glad that I did. And I do have a bit of a bias to Poirot. I really do. He's my number one. I mean, he's a dramatic little bitch, 100%, but at least he isn't a lazy little bitch like Miss Marple. Because speaking of her, 450 from Paddington. So I read this book. I went onto a sleeper train from Glasgow to London, and I had to try and solve the mystery before getting to the end of the line. That was the video concept. I had a lot of fun doing it, but that book. In saying that though, this was my very first time reading Miss Marple, and I wasn't sure what her mystery solving style was like. I mean, it's non-existent. Definitely non-existent. She just sits there, lets everyone do the work. I mean, I have to respect it and appreciate it in a formal setting, but behind the scenes, I can't stand Miss Marple. And it was a little bit of a learning curve reading 450 from Paddington. So with that being my very first Miss Marple, something stinks and it ain't Miss Marple. Oh, it could be though. You never know with her. I just didn't love it. I didn't love it. And I was getting more and more frustrated with it. And I again, like early days, but I don't think the clues in everything that was handed to me was as cohesive and as good to follow as other Agatha Christie mysteries. I think it was a little bit too random at times. And yeah, I just didn't love it. I didn't love it. I'm so sorry. But hey, I think some of these early books that I read 4 years ago could be re-examined. We could dig up these cold cases and look at it with fresh 2026 eyes, potentially. All Miss Marple has to do is apologise for what she said about me behind my back, and then maybe I will enjoy her books more. I will say there is at least one Miss Marple book that I do enjoy, so yeah, it's not all doom and gloom. And then we have Hercule Poirot's Christmas. And this one was a good surprise for me, actually. It was a good surprise. I wasn't sure what a Christmassy themed mystery would be like for Agatha. It was my first one, and I ended up solving it over Christmas Eve a couple of years ago. And it was a really fun video to do. Again, like just my experience reading it was just so fun. And I did get it right. I did get it right. Oh, I will say as well, 450 from Paddington, I did get it wrong. I didn't solve that one. So again, that probably adds to my bitterness towards it. But I will actually say the majority of books that I've enjoyed are books that I didn't solve. So 6 of my top 9, because number 10 is Murder on the Orient Express and that doesn't count. So 6 of my top 9 are mysteries I did not solve. So it isn't the fact that I didn't solve it that makes me hate this one. At least like 450 from Paddington. It doesn't make me hate 450 from Paddington that I didn't solve it. But I did want to throw that out there just in case you think I have a bit of a bias towards ones that I didn't solve. But anyway, sorry, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, Hercule Poirot's Christmas. I solved it. I got it right. And I was, again, very proud of it. After the murder of Roger Ackroyd, it is one of my most proudest moments as a senior detective. It made me go, Miss Marple could never. And I thought it was a pretty good story. I mean, it wasn't like a kind of creative, out of nowhere kind of story. I will say I did get it right, but I wasn't 100% sure of the how. I do think the how is a bit complex, but it still made for a riveting read over Christmas. So if you have not yet read it and you want something to do this Christmas, I would recommend Hercule Poirot's Christmas. So this one will go into strong evidence. It would go into strong evidence. I do think it's a really strong one. Then we have The Body in the Library. Another Miss Marple. And I did stay overnight, well, 2 nights, in an actual library, Gladstone's library, and I went to solve The Body in the Library. And I did manage to solve this one, but again, like some things just came out of nowhere. Some of the motive stuff came out of nowhere. And Agatha Christie does have recurring motives. She does have recurring themes. And sometimes, though, it does feel like they come out of nowhere, especially things to do with like romance, maybe money, stuff like that. Those are like her main kind of things, at least from what I've read. But Body in the Library was just a little bit too random. A little bit too out of nowhere for a lot of it. And it just didn't feel, like I didn't really feel the library vibes. And I think the story itself just like lacked from that. The best part about The Body in the Library was filming a video at an actual library. In doing that, that was really fun. I would love to do it again. I would love to do it again. Because again, like back in 2023, I think I did that one. I was only like 4 years into my booktube career. And I wasn't that confident in person sometimes. I wasn't as confident filming in public and stuff as I am now. So I would love to kind of maybe redo that video or do something like it again. But The Body in the Library, I would put it above 450 from Paddington, but it's still something stinks in it, Miss Marple. Okay, the ABC Murders. I really like this one. Again, I didn't solve it. And I will say, I wasn't exactly spoiled for who did it. But a few people told me before I read it, something that threw me off. And I know they had the best intentions, 100%. They weren't 100% wrong or anything like that, but because they said something, it made me look somewhere else kind of thing. So my actual experience reading it wasn't as fun as I would have loved it to have been, but the plot itself was so good. I haven't really told you what any of these are about, really. Someone dies and someone did it, okay? That's literally all you need to know. But the ABC Murders did have a bit of a creative concept where somebody was killing people who had like alliterative names, and they were killing them in cities or towns that also begin with that letter. So AA was the initials of the first victim, and they died in a place that began with an A. I can't remember all of those finer details. Look, I've solved so many mysteries over the years. You just can't really keep those mystery details all the time. It's been 3 years since I attempted to solve that one, and all the finer details have gone. But I do remember still really like enjoying the plot. The reading experience itself wasn't as amazing because of the information I got beforehand, but I did really, really enjoy the plot. I thought the plot was great, kept me on my toes. It was a really hard one to solve as well, I think, even without getting that information beforehand. I do think you would have fun reading it. So the ABC Murders, I would put it at the top of strong evidence. I would put it above Hercule Poirot's Christmas, and I'm kind of loving the fact that there's 2 in each ranking now. That's actually very satisfying. I love it. So then we do have Hallowe'en Party, and this one was the last Agatha Christie video I made before going on my hiatus, and it was a really fun time actually reading it. Again, like I try to make my reading experiences of these, you know, mysteries fun by like filming silly videos and stuff like that, and, you know, being with my channel members and trying to solve it with them. So like the experience itself was very good, but I didn't like the book. I thought it had a really like kind of tedious plot, and I did solve it, and I'm not gonna lie, I thought it was very easy to solve. It was probably the easiest one to solve out of all of them. Something happens in it that I think just gives too much away. It is set at a Hallowe'en party. We get introduced to Ariadne Oliver, and she recurs, like she's in another one, and I loved her as a character, absolutely. But I think around that, some of the characters, some of the suspects lacked charisma, and as soon as something happened that was so freaking obvious, I was like, there's genuinely no way it could be anyone else. And I was right. I was absolutely right. And it was sad that, like, you know, like a young girl dies at this Hallowe'en party. That's essentially what kickstarts the story. So I did feel some sympathy, even if the characters were awful. Like, the characters were like, oh, she was a little bitch anyway. She was a little cow. And I was like, come on, this is a child. So some of that was like very hilarious, but also like very disrespectful. And overall, yeah, again, like it just wasn't my favorite. It really wasn't. I will put it between The Body in the Library and 450 from Paddington. It really wasn't all that great for me. It actually made my worst books of the year in 2023. Just didn't love it. And then, oh, Crooked House. Okay, let's get back on track. Crooked House was amazing. It was so freaking good. And I'm gutted because I did my hiatus after Hallowe'en Party because I was like, right, this is one of my worst books. I'm not enjoying solving these mysteries anymore. I will just do my member solve-alongs, and that's it. I'm not making videos. But the first freaking book I read after my hiatus was Crooked House, and I gave it 5 stars. It is going in 8 and left no crumbs. Sorry, 8 and left no clues. It was so good. It was so good. And people were telling me as well, it was one of the most recommended Agatha Christie books to me, and I loved it. I didn't get it right, but I was so pleasantly surprised. It had some twists and turns at the end that I thought, oh, this is riveting stuff. I really do feel like Agatha Christie just knew how to do plot in this one. She knew how to have some charismatic characters in this one. Oh God, it took me by surprise. And with the amount of people who were recommending this one, I was like, there's no way. There's no way. This is kind of maybe a little bit too overhyped, but it was good. And if you know, you know. And then right after doing Crooked House, the solve-along, I ended up doing a movie night for the movie right after it. And it's the one with Glenn Close. Oh, she was amazing. She was so good. But also, like, the movie itself was really entertaining too. It was a good movie. So yeah, well, that's what we're going to do with 7,000 Mystery as well. We're going to watch the Netflix adaptation the day after the solve-along. So that's going to be really fun. It was stunning. Crooked House was stunning. The Mysterious Affair at Styles was, I believe... Hang on, I'm going to burp. The Mysterious Affair at Styles, I believe, is Agatha Christie's first published novel, if I'm not mistaken. And it was good. It was good. Like, I didn't love it. I think you can really tell it's one of her early works. I think she is also still trying to find her footing as she's writing this mystery. And it doesn't have the most captivating plots. You know, someone dies through poisoning. Not the most genius of mystery novels, to be honest. And yeah, honestly, looking back on it now, I don't think I have that many standout moments that I can remember. I do remember who did it, but even then I'm like, and I did get it right. I did get it right. I don't think it was easy to solve, but I don't think it was the most unique one to solve. But it was a decent affair. See what I did there? The Mysterious Affair at Styles, I'll probably put under Murder on the Orient Express. I think, oh my gosh, if the next one is Strong Evidence, I'm literally, I'm telling you, like, this is getting strange. We've got 3 in almost all of them, and I've just seen what we're talking about next. This is a little bit strange how uniform this is looking. If it is perfect all the way through, oh my god, that's beautiful. Yeah, I solved it, so that's good. At least I got a point from it. 5 Little Pigs. Now, I'm going to put that one under ABC Murders and above Hercule Poirot's Christmas. It's 3 in each. I love it. I actually definitely won't end with it being uniform because we have 17 books on this one, so it's not gonna do. Anyway, it doesn't matter. 5 Little Pigs was very good, and again, it had one of those kind of unusual plots a little bit to make it stand out from other Agatha Christie books. I remember there being a murder that happened years and years and years ago, and someone else was convicted of it, but now it's like years and years later, I think it was like over 20 years later, and the child of, I think the person who was convicted, they come to Poirot for help clearing their name, and Poirot has to like go back to a case that he wasn't even there for to solve it and to figure it out. And I love that idea. I love the way that the plot unfolded. It was a bit of a tricky one again, and yeah, it was pretty good, and I love Poirot. Sometimes he's at his best during these times when he has to be very creative, when he has to think outside the box a little bit. That man might be a drama queen, but he knows what he's doing. I love it when he sits everyone down and he's like, I've figured it out, and it was fucking one he has. And he knows which one it was. He knows which one didn't flush the toilet after having a shit. So I always appreciate when he does that. It's cinema. It's absolute cinema. Death Comes at the End. I hate it. I really did not like Death Comes at the End. And it's, again, a very different one to Agatha Christie's usual because it is more of a historical murder mystery. And I remember there was like Imhotep, and he brings his concubine home, and they're meeting the family for the first time. And it was just odd. It was random. I actually went to Egypt a couple of years ago, and I bought that while I was in Egypt. And I love the vibes. I love the fact that this was set in, I believe it was Thebes, which I didn't go to, but I could still picture it. I could still envision everything. But I didn't like the writing style of this one. I love the idea of it. I really do. I thought it could be a really cool mystery and totally different to everything Agatha's done, but it fell so flat for me. I didn't connect to a single character. And sometimes it is hard to connect to Agatha Christie characters because it's usually just dialogue. You don't really get to learn a whole lot about their personalities unless it's relevant to the case a lot of the times. So it is hard to connect to characters, but usually I end up feeling something for characters. I felt nothing for anyone in Death Comes at the End, to be quite honest. I found it boring, didn't like it. It's my least favourite Agatha Christie book. One of the worst, in my humble opinion. Death in the Clouds was definitely better. Reading Death in the Clouds after Death Comes at the End, honestly, it's like night and day. But I still didn't love Death in the Clouds. I actually really wanted to try and solve that one while on a plane. However, that is like really hard to do. Like, you can't really do that. There's too much noise. It just, I mean, maybe I could have done. Maybe if I'd booked first class, had my own little cubicle, maybe I could have done it, potentially. But then it would just be me sitting there in the one spot. I wouldn't move. But that would have been so fun to do. But anyway, sorry. I love going off on tangents. I love it. This is why I'd make a great detective in real life, honestly. So Death in the Clouds, I think I would put above Death on the Nile, but below The Mysterious Affair at Styles. I liked the plane setting. I liked that there was a murder on a plane in plain sight, that Poirot was on this plane and he slept through the entire thing because it's just what he does. I did solve this one too, very proud of that, but I did find the how a little bit convoluted, to the point where I kind of suspended my disbelief a little bit. I do think every Agatha Christie mystery is realistic to a certain extent. There may be some, bending of things, but I try not to look too closely into that. And I think Death in the Clouds was maybe a little convoluted, but I still really enjoyed it and I still got it, so that's good. You're probably wondering, how did you get it if you didn't really understand how it happened? Sometimes I just know. Sometimes I know my gut who did it. I don't always get the how, but I always get the who. Well, apart from 7 times when Agatha bested me because she cheated. But yeah, Death in the Clouds was like mid to kind of good. Evil Under the Sun, I loved the vibes of this one. I love the fact that Poirot was on holiday and that we have a beach. We have a bit of a movie starlet kind of persona. And it was great. I felt really bad for the victim in this one too. And there were some really standout moments, especially coming and leading up to the confrontations and getting more clues and things like that. I actually thought it was a really fast-paced kind of Poirot book compared to usual. So Evil Under the Sun, I will put in the very top of strong evidence. It's not the same level as And Then There Were None, or Crooked House, or The Murder of Roger Ackroyd, but it's so strong. It was such a strong one. It's one that I could definitely see myself rereading every other summer. It's a great summer beach read, so forget Emily Henry, read Evil Under the Sun instead. I didn't solve this one. I am a little bit bitter about it, but it was still a really fun one to read. And I think that's what I'm ranking mostly on too. Like how much fun I had while reading these books. That wasn't manufactured by me personally. Like say 450 from Paddington, most of the fun came from the fact that I was on a sleeper train while trying to solve it. That was me making it fun, not Agatha. Whereas Evil in the Sun, the fun came from Agatha. The fun came from the story and the way she wrote it. It was so good. It was so good. A Murder is announced. Okay, this is a Miss Marple. And you'll be surprised to know that I would actually put this in strong evidence. I think just under the ABC Murders, I think would be a good place to put it. I do give this major props for it being a Miss Marple, and it's one I enjoy. See, Miss Marple can surprise me. She can. When she pulls her finger out and she actually does something, I can like her. But yeah, Murder is announced. I love the plot of it. I love the fact that a murder was announced in the paper first, before it even happened. And like, there's just a sense of curiosity. The sense of, what the hell is going on here? That really did permeate a lot of the mystery, because it was just so different. It was so weird. And I did manage to solve it as well. This was one that I did actually manage to get right. And I honestly wish that I came back to doing Crazy Crime and Wine on my YouTube channel for that one, because I do remember having such a blast trying to figure it out, in just the whole like newspaper angle of it as well, in trying to really read into the clues. I think was a really fun one to do for that one. But an actual exciting Miss Marple mystery. If anyone has any recommendations for a really solid, entertaining Miss Marple book, let me know down below. I am willing to give her a chance, but if I do catch her out and about, she better watch her back. And the last one was my most recent book that I read of Agatha Christie's. I do have a video dedicated to solving this one, which I did not solve. I did not solve. And that's Cards on the Table. And it's going straight up into Ain't Left No Clues. Maybe it's I think it might be my third favourite Agatha Christie book. I think it might be above Crooked House. I loved it. It is currently so far one of my favourite books of 2026. I gave it a 5-star, and I've only given like 3 5-stars this year so far. It's one of my 5 stars. That ending was crazy. It was crazy. I do wish that I understood more of the actual game itself, because the suspects were playing bridge at the time of this murder that happened at a party, like a little bit of a small gathering of people who could potentially have murdered the host, because there's something a little bit sketchy about all of them. But I didn't get it right. I thought I did, and it was a roller coaster, an absolute roller coaster of emotions. I would highly recommend checking out the video, because I live react to the last couple of chapters as everything was being revealed, and I threw the book twice. It was like, but it was so good. It was so freaking good. It was so exciting, so fast-paced. I loved finding out more about the suspects. I love that Poirot was on the case. I love that I was on the case, Agatha. We also had the return of like Ariadne as well, which was really fun. It was just so shocking to me. I'm sure lots of other people have like read it and solved it, but it was shocking to me. It was the most fun I've had reading an Agatha Christie book since Crooked House, which I read January 2024. So it had been 2 years since I had like that much fun. Like, don't get me wrong, I had fun with some of the other books, but like that much fun where I wanted to throw the book. Oh my gosh. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. So I love Cards on the Table. And that is probably one of my favourite Agatha Christie videos as well. So I feel like we came back at the right time. As much as I wish I'd done a video for all of these, I do think we came back at the right time. I really did start to enjoy reading and solving Agatha Christie again after a couple of years of kind of rocky territory. And it just came back in full force, and Cards on the Table was the perfect one to come back to. If you want a good recommendation for an exciting, shocking Agatha Christie book, then I do think Cards on the Table is one of the best ones. And I do think think the ranking at the minute too, that is exactly the order that I would rank them. So my top 4 Agatha Christie books are And Then There Were None, The Murder of Roger Ackroyd, Cards on the Table, and Crooked House. And then Evil in the Sun will be my top 5. Like, it's number 5 for me at the minute. ABC Murders is 6th, Murder is Announced is 7th, Five Little Pigs is 8th, Hercule Poirot's Christmas is 9th, and Murder on the Orient Express is 10th. That is kind of shocking to me that one of her most popular, if not her most popular book, is so low. It might be reread time to see if that can climb back up the rankings. The Mysterious Affair at Styles is 11, Death in the Clouds is 12, Death on the Nile is 13th, Body in the Library is 14th, Hallowe'en Party is 15th, 450 from Paddington is 16th, In Death Comes at the End is dead last at number 17. It is definitely my least favourite Agatha Christie book and one of the worst books that I've ever read. Well, probably, that might be a little bit extreme. That might be a little bit extreme. But it was no fun. It was not fun. So hopefully you enjoyed my ranking. I would love to know actually your top 5 Agatha Christie books. If you would let me know down below in the comments, your top 5 Agatha Christie books. I need to know if I've read them. I need to know if you kind of agree or disagree with my ranking. Agatha Christie is so subjective. I'm sure rankings will be so different for every person. So please be kind. Give me all your Agatha Christie recommendations down below. I do want to know. But yeah, that's the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to leave this video a like if you enjoyed and subscribe if you haven't already. And if you subscribe, you will definitely be one of the first to see my upcoming Christie Crime and Wine series, the new episodes where Slagatha takes on Agatha to see if Slagatha can solve the mystery before getting to the end of the book. And we do need that leaderboard to have a bigger gap between Agatha and Slagatha. It's getting too close to call. She might end up overtaking me. We can't let that happen. I'll give a huge thank you to my members for supporting my channel and joining me on my Christie Crime solve-alongs over the last few years as well. If you'd like to join my membership and also take part in some of my solve-alongs, then the link will be in the description box. But yeah, I hope I will see you in the next video. Bye.